Betty, Maury, Marlon. Cool. Thanks. So, good evening. Hey, Marlon, how you doing? How's everyone else doing? Good to be with you.
Well, I'm great. Thank you, Barry.
Cool. So, I'm just going to ask you guys to throw some questions into the chat box. I got a few things that I can share with you tonight after my trip. But if you've got some questions around sales, being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, closing, I don't know, some of you might even be in the network marketing business. If you want to talk about maybe how to connect with people better, just it all comes down to sales. So yeah, just throw a couple of questions in there. But great to have you all on. So yeah, some of you know I've just been in Bangkok for the last 4 days. Spent 4 days with my mentor Blair Singer and with Robert Kiyosaki, and we were speaking at an event there which was hosted by one of our trainers out of Thailand, a guy called Romy, who's essentially does what I do in South Africa. He does it in Thailand, teaches sales explosion and all those type of events. So he put on a very impressive event, 1,700 people. Robert was there, so it was pretty cool. Got to speak with my girls, which was pretty awesome. All three of them were on stage, so that was really good. So just flew in, got back here from the airport just after 6. So great to be on this call. So fire away, any questions? What questions have you got around sales and selling right now? Come on. Anyone? I don't think any of you are on this call for the first time. I think most of you have been on this call before. So come on, fire away some questions. You must have some things around sales, business, those type of things. Eugene, you've always got questions, dude. Come on. Let's have some questions. Need you guys to do some of the thinking tonight. How's that? Is that fair?
Hi, Barry. Surprise.
Hey, Michelle. Cool. How you doing? Nice to see you.
Good, thanks, and you? I hijacked my husband's laptop.
Oh, good. There we go. Cool.
He's busy with the kids. Quick.
Oh, good.
So,
yeah, I like that. Put him out to work. Good job. Well done.
So
cool.
Share your trip, Barry. Come, give us some nuggets.
So before I share, you guys are going to give me some questions to work on. Come on. What questions do you have? Then I'll chat.
Well, we're finding, Barry, in our business, a lot of people I think people at the moment are pretty over-consumed with work and life, and that they're not even willing to look at other opportunities to earn extra income. Okay.
That makes sense. How many of you can connect with what Michelle's saying? You're meeting lots of people. So this would be particular to things like multi-level marketing, network marketing, where people are complaining about how they're so busy and their life sucks, but they're not prepared to do anything else. So so the question is, well, and is it only particular to that? I mean, how many people complain about their job and they won't change it, and somebody else offers them a different opportunity and they can't see it? And so why is that?
Kind of people are stuck. They're just kind of used to what they're doing. They just carry on doing it and not open to even looking at anything else. They just, I think it's overwhelming to them to even think of doing something else.
Okay, good. So so for me, it all comes down to sales. It all comes down to selling to your little voice, because that's really what it is. And Karen, it is a fear of embracing change. Sadly, for many people, they haven't even come to terms with the fact that they need to change. So I think, one of the books that I've been studying recently is a book by Eckhart Tolle called The Power of Now. So how many of you have read it? How many of you have heard of it before? So Mari's telling me tonight. Hey? So
I think Robert spoke of it when he was young.
Yeah, so Robert spoke on it, and it's one of the books that working with him that we have to study at the moment. And really, what is key, a couple of things. People get stuck like this. So we complain that our life sucks. Well, it's not actually our life. What it is what Tolle says. It's our life situation. It's the situation we are in our life right now that sucks. Not our life. Our life is our life. Our being is our being. But we connect to the life situation. So he says, if you find your life situation unsatisfactory or even intolerable, it is only by surrendering first that you can break the unconscious resistance. So what happens is we put resistance in our way that creates that little voice. So there's all these resistances: unhappiness, anger, frustration, getting annoyed with government, all that sort of stuff. Blame, So you guys have heard me talk before about responsibility. You can either live above the line or below the line. Above the line is you take responsibility for your life. Below the line is justification, laying blame, denial, all those type of things. So how many realize many people are just not taking full responsibility? They're doing what they're doing, but they're actually not taking responsibility for themselves, for their being, for changing who they are. Because that, at the end of the day, is where it changes. So whether it's in sales, whether it's in network marketing, whether it's in running your traditional business, whether it's learning how to invest and become financially free, financially literate, wherever it is, it's that resistance that we create in our mind that stops us moving on. So he says this. I have a saying that I love. It's called, it is what it is. And whatever situation we get in our life, it just is what it is. And, I think when you just come to terms with the fact that it is what it is, and you accept what is, you can change. And, so he tells the story of a butcher. And the guy comes in and says to the butcher, "Give me the best piece of meat you have," said the customer. And the butcher replied, "Every piece of meat I have is the best. There's no piece of meat here that is not the best." So, you see, when you accept what is, when you accept, like the butcher, every piece of meat, which is every moment, is the best, then you're in control of where you are right now. So yeah, to go back to Michelle, to your question of when you're connecting with people, and people are so busy because we're either stuck in the future or the past. We're not actually focused on the life. Life is lived right now in the now. And how many of you have so many things going on in your head about the future? What's going to happen here? Now, I'm not saying you don't plan, because anyone that has been in Sales Explosion, you'll know we talk about begin with the end in mind. If you've been in Awaken Your Financial Genius, we talk about begin with the end in mind. Have a good idea of where you want to go, but then you got to focus on every single day. You got to operate in the now and then. And most people are not are not operating in the now. They're either stuck in the past or they're too focused on the future. So, Michelle, I don't know if that makes sense and adds any value to you.
Does. Thanks, Barry.
Cool. Thanks for that. Anyone else? Anyone else have a question or a comment? Something that we can touch on? Be it finance, be it sales, be it business, whatever it is. Any questions? Type them in or. Okay, so I'm gonna share a little bit from my trip. So as I said at the start of the call, I had really had an incredible opportunity to spend a couple of days with Blessing and Robert Kiyosaki in Bangkok. and had also had the opportunity to take Nicole and my 2 daughters there, which was amazing. They got to go on stage, which was an unbelievable honor. And yeah, for me, learned a lot from Robert. And those of you that have been in any rooms with me recently, you know that I've been talking quite a lot about taking feedback. So again, on stage, took some feedback from him quite often, which was pretty interesting, but just grows you. So yeah, so I suppose the first key thing, and it becomes more and more apparent to me, is the question I'm going to ask you to ask yourself: who are you surrounding yourself with right now? Are you surrounding yourself with people who are really, truly stronger than you and bigger than you, and you prepared to let them kick your butt and get you to be bigger? Or are you surrounding yourself with people who are prepared to sort of tell you that you can be bigger, but not prepared to really help you get bigger by being direct and getting you to really move to where they know that you can move? So yeah, just ask yourself that question: who am I surrounding myself with? Okay, great. So Marlon asks, how does one move from being self-employed to being a business owner? Yeah, Marlon, that's a great question. So I'm going to hazard a guess that you can open your mic if you want. Yeah, if you can, that would be good. But I'm going to hazard a guess, Marlon, that you are talking about this. Oh, here it is. Sorry. Okay, so I would imagine.
Just a white screen at the moment, Barry.
There we go. Okay, so my suggestion is, your question, Marlon, is how to move from here to here.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, great. So the first question is, why would you want to move into the B quadrant?
Well,
why would you want to move?
The thing is, it's about freedom. So we start a business in order to gain freedom, but then we quickly realize, because I mean, being an employee, you're getting paid, and you realize it's just not enough. There's no real fulfillment from my perspective. And then move from that to owning. So I want to do something that I'm passionate about, and I want to own it. But then you find you're stuck in your business. So now I can't move left or right. In fact, I work for my employees. So but big business, we were talking about big business, that business runs without me.
Okay.
So how does one make that move from being like a 5-person small business to like a massive business?
Okay, so my question is, why don't you just move straight here?
Okay.
How do you do that?
That is a great question. Who was that?
That's Maria.
So
Barry,
well,
I'm here with my Aunt Maria. So she's clubbing in, and she wants to know, how does one move from that S to I?
Okay, good. So many people think that when you look at the cash flow quadrant, you got to go ESBI. It's not a.
That's what I thought.
From Robert, it is not a progression of, you have to go from employee to an investor for it to happen. So there's different opportunities. So Robert actually said this. In fact, he said it this weekend when I was in thing. He says, you better have a big set of gonads, but he said it in more distinct language. You better have big nuts. You better have big balls if you want to go into the B quadrant. He says that environment is tough because real B quadrant businesses is all about public companies, listing businesses, lots of employees. And that's great. I mean, for some people, that's really one of their passions. I want to build a business, have hundreds of thousands of employees, list it, do all that sort of stuff. That's great. So the question, Marlon, is do you want to build a business or do you want to become financially free?
Financially free.
Financial freedom.
Okay. So if it's not going into business, if business is not your passion, for example, and you don't see yourself building this massive thing, well, what happens if you learned how to become an investor and invested in, I don't know, stocks and shares, property, one of the 4 key asset classes? Because you can be an employee, you can sit in the E quadrant and in the I quadrant. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
So see, this is a great question because I think a lot of people think that in order to be successful, I have to make the journey into each one of these quadrants. Well, take my business at the moment. I'm an employee of my own business, okay?
Yeah.
I'm also self-employed. Okay. I don't own a big business. Nicole and I have a network marketing business, and there's an opportunity to try and leverage a network marketing business because that for me is the closest thing I would be able to get into the B quadrant unless I built a business of my own where I employed hundreds of people and did all that sort of stuff. Does that make sense?
It does.
And then I'm investing in property. So starting to become an investor. Now, the I quadrant is not just someone that has 2 or 3 properties, it's someone who becomes a professional investor. Does that make sense? So someone who does it as a living, it's their business. That is their business. So can you see, I mean, Robert explained it to me once like this. He says in his area of expertise, he's a big business owner. In the businesses he's invested in, he has hundreds and thousands of employees. He's an investor in real estate, all those type of things, yeah?
Yeah.
He is self-employed in his own business because he's not an S quadrant thinker, he's a B quadrant thinker. But at some stage he was also an employee of Rich Dad. So at some stage he was also self-employed when he started writing his books, because he was writing his books, selling his books in Rich Dad. So he was in all 4 quadrants. Is this making sense?
Yes.
So you got to choose the journey that you want to go on, but the start of the journey comes from being clear in, I believe, in what this really means. Clear in for anybody, what do they understand financial literacy to mean? And, the more we become financially literate, the more we understand where and how we want to move. The more we understand that it's not about income and it's not about expenses, which is where most people get stuck, don't they?
Yeah.
Most people are focused. So in the self-employed, in the self-employed quadrant and the employee quadrant, most people are stuck on income. For employees, go get a high-paying job. That's all about what? It's all about income, isn't it?
So.
You get that?
Right. Correct. Just couldn't hear you. Broke up.
And then it's about expenses. So when you become self-employed, to a degree, we have our own job. But what I'm seeing, and right now I'm doing quite a lot of work, as you know, Marlon, in the entrepreneurial development space, and especially in the transformation space in South Africa with small medium SMEs. And what I realized pretty fast is most of them are focused on generating income. It's their focus is, how can I just need to make money. But what happens is they generate money, goes straight into expenses, and then they have no money because they don't understand this bottom piece. They don't understand assets and liabilities. So what they do is they think that is earn a crap load of money through income, expenses, which essentially the more money they make, abilities and the flows. Now, pretty much all of you on this call, to some degree or other, understand what I'm talking about right now. You know, a number of you are in the Awaken Your Financial Genius program. A number of you have been, you know, in my seminars or in Robert's seminars, those type of things. So this is not new stuff for us to know. The question is, are we doing it? Because I think, Marlon, you hit on something very important. A lot of people get stuck that I have to move into this B quadrant. Well, can you be an employee and an investor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you don't even have to become self-employed. You know, this is not about quitting your job. This is about changing your mindset. This is all about what do we do with the money that we have? So it's shifting the way we think about the money it's shifting the way we think about how we use money, not always necessarily about how we make money. So when we go back to this, let's go back to this. Income and expenses, assets and liabilities. So if you have a job, but you think like a business owner, you think like an investor, then the purpose of your job, you generate income, yes?
Yes.
So you have a job, so you generate income. Now for most people, what they do is they generate income, they put that income into an expense, that expense flows out the door. We saw that just now. Now, if you think like a business owner and investor, what a business owner and an investor does is they focus that whatever expense they generate, that expense must earn them an income. Okay, so
right.
you could spend, so I'll give you an example. When I flew to Bangkok, on the way there, I flew business class. Now, when I put it into this formula right now, I looked at the expense. Now, on the face of the money for the short flight, it's 8 hours to Dubai and 5 hours to Bangkok. Well, you know, it's a 3-hour break. It's not, well, you could say it's not really worth it if I was just going to sit in the chair and watch movies. So I made a decision that I needed to use the expense of business class to add income. So what I did is I made certain that I did a whole lot of work on the plane. I wrote a couple of programs. I designed one new program. There's a whole lot of things that I could do so that I utilize that expense to create future income. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So the other thing is people will generate, let me just change this color. So people will, so that's got to be that's a change in mindset, isn't it?
It is.
To shift from there, from expenses to income that'll create income rather than like this. Yeah. Or what we do is take that expense becomes a liability. That liability just is an outflow. Now what we got to do is think differently. So we take that liability, all liabilities must create assets. So if you get this, all expenses must create income, all liabilities must create assets, and all assets must generate positive cash flow or positive income. Many people are sitting there saying, I have an asset, which is my house. It's not, it's a liability because does the money flow in or flow out?
Out. Can you hear Barry? Out.
I have a car. Does the money flow? Yeah. So that's the thinking. You know, the change in thinking is when I create a liability. So a liability, for example, is I create debt. Many people are creating debt, and that debt is flowing into what?
Out. Well, it's an expense.
Because it goes straight into expenses. So what they try to do is that's how they want to live. Does that make sense? Rather than saying, if I take that debt and I create an asset out of it, then that asset creates those expenses. So it's a difference in thinking. But when you go back to the cash flow quadrant, there's 4 areas in business where people make money: employees, self-employed, big business, and investors. So like I said, you can be an employee and you can learn, study, and become an investor. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, or you can become self-employed and you can decide that you want to build a massive business. So if you have to do that, that's about building a team, creating those, learning how to teach, learning all the structures, studying it. So you build a big business. You list it, you have lots of employees, for example. It doesn't have to be listed to be a big business, but that's the deal. Or you can be a self-employed person and you can invest, or you can do both. Or you can be a big business owner and an employee of the big business. You can be the CEO, the MD, whatever it is. That's another thing that I think is also pretty important that I've learned from both Robert and Blair. And I mean, Marlon, you've heard me say this. I'll never be the CEO of my own business. Haven't you heard me say that?
Exactly.
Why do I say that? Because I'm a bad what?
Manager of people.
I hate managing people. I love building and teaching people, and I love being creative, and I love selling and being out there. But I'm not a great manager of people, and a great CEO has got to manage people and systems. That makes sense.
Right.
Whereas I see too many people become self-employed, start this business, and the first thing that goes on their card is this title that says CEO. I'm going, CEO of what? So to be in big business, Warren Buffett plays in the BI side, doesn't he?
He does.
Does he run any of those big businesses?
None of them.
Does he say, I'm CEO of any of those businesses?
No.
But I bet you he makes more money than any CEO that's got CEO on their card in any of his businesses.
Yeah, for sure.
Because he understands you've got to find the right people to do the right job to create the right results. So again, it goes back to which quadrant are you going to be in, and do you understand that each quadrant has different thinking, requires different skills, requires a different mindset. However, that said, this quadrant is where the rich play. Okay, not necessarily high income earners, but the rich, people that create wealth and are free, not people that earn huge money. How many of you realize that many people that earn tons of money play in this quadrant?
Yeah.
But at the end of the month, they have no money left. So they keep working hard, getting promoted, earning more and more and more, but that flow is flowing out. It's not flowing in to investments, so it creates more cash flow. Does that answer that, Marlon?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Barry.
Great question. Well done. I'm sure that was Auntie Maria, because Marlon, that was very advanced for you and me.
Barry, she's laughing because she knows it's true.
No.
Okay, good. So, Karun was really giving some, so Karun, when does that creates, was that an aha for you? Excellent. So look, if you want to create financial freedom out of property, then you're going to have to build a property business. Yeah. So it'll be a business, but we're not talking that big multinational type of listed business or hundreds and hundreds of employees, whatever that might be. You'll have a property business. I don't know, maybe it has 20, 30, 50, 100, 200. Maybe you become a Kim Kiyosaki, but it's got to go through a business. It is a business entity. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, no. So, okay, so I'm gonna share something that that I have shared pretty often, a couple of times before, and we went through it when I was in Phoenix now with Blair with a number of our trainers, and I'm gonna in the Sales Explosion program or Sales and Leadership Mastery program that I'm doing on the weekend, Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, which some of you are coming to, which I'm excited about. My favorite program out of all of them is I'll talk a little bit about this, about the journey to power. How many of you want to have more power and influence in your life? If you want to have more power and more influence in your life over yourself and in the world to create something different, how many of you would like that? Just type in yes in the chat box if that's you. Excellent, thank you. So how it came up is we were talking to one of our trainers, and he got blasted by Robert because at a seminar he had met Robert once or twice before through Blair at one of the events. Like, hey, how's it? This is one of my trainers. That sort of stuff. And what happened is he went up to Robert after an event and sort of went down, sat down next to Robert, and started making some comments about the promoter and how he could do a much better job. And Robert really blasted him. And the lesson was this, is many people, what happens is that they think because they know somebody, or they think because they know something. I see this with speakers and trainers, that they think because they know something that suddenly they're in a position of power. And I see it when people get on stage and have some success, and suddenly they're a speaker, and they immediately go into a position of power. And what happens, it creates chaos for them. So this is what we call the power formula. Now, in the Sales Explosion program, I'll go through it in a lot more detail, but I'm just going to run through it with you tonight, just to give you an idea of how it works. So in anything in life, in any venture, in anything, you're invisible. So nobody knows anything about you. And what happens is small businesses start like this. You're invisible. Have an idea, start selling it. Get to know some people. Then what happens is you move. And emergence, you start finding some regular customers, calling on them. Now, in these two areas, there's some key things that you have to do. Both these areas here, one, you have to sell and promote. Okay, and the other thing you have to do is serve. Now, how many realize that promotion, advertising, marketing, sales is something people wait until they have some money to do? But it's got to come right in the beginning. Okay, the other thing is this is a time where you really have to serve. So get in, serve, connect with other people, do things for free. What will happen is if you do that, over a period of time, what we call chaos. Once you go into chaos, look, how many of you have small to medium-sized businesses? How many of you are entrepreneurs and you spent your whole business existence in chaos? How many of you can connect with that? Most S quadrant people live in this area of chaos. So, and there's a couple of things that come up when in chaos. One of them is this word, the mood or the emotion that comes up is this thing called frustration. In emergence, we have what comes up as fear. So you got to push through it here, and we talk about it in the sales explosion program. This is where to get out of chaos, you got to start systemizing, put systems in place. If you move through chaos, you'll move into what we call normal operations. Normal operations is where you need where you need to create a management structure of a good team. So you need whole
Barry, there?
Let's send here. This signal.
Barry, you there? So it seems we lost Barry for a sec.
Sorry about that. I should be back now.
Yep. Thank you, Barry.
Okay, cool. So what you would have got is you would have got that piece that then goes to normal operations, from normal operations to abundance, and from abundance to power. And what I was saying that you missed out is that when people get into this position of power, what comes up is arrogance. People get arrogant, ego comes up, and if they don't manage that properly, what happens is they go crashing down to chaos, or even worse, down into invisibility. And they have to start creating themselves again, and they go into emergence. And in that case, that emergence, when they go from there, that emergence becomes emergency. So the reason I talk about this is because through any process, wherever you are, when you're on the journey in growth, you'll find yourself along this path. Now, you've got to go through each section in order to reach power. You see, what happens is, how many of you know this? You've seen people that have been at a level of invisibility or emergence. Suddenly something happens. They strike a big deal. Something happens. Boom, they go into this level of power or abundance right at the top. And then they don't know how to manage it. Their being is not big enough. They're not big enough. Their mindset's not big enough. They come crashing down. In your business, you're self-employed. What happens is, you've got to, if you understand this formula, if you understand this process, we have a number of we have a number of things that you have to do as you go through each step that will take you up to a position of power and growth. But it is a process. So any questions on this piece? So I'm going to be teaching that in the sales and leadership program over the weekend in a lot more depth, because it's really, really important if you understand this wherever your business is or wherever you are in sales. Any questions or comments on that? How many of you learned something out of that little short piece? How many of you think that how many of you realize that very often people are getting too lost in trying to get to that position of power without going through any steps? And when you get to that position of power, that's when it can be really dangerous, because you haven't grown your being or yourself. And that's when we come crashing down. Any questions or comments? Len says, oh yes. Fran learned a lot. Okay, good. Thank you. Very good. Thank you, Michael. Agreed equals greed. So, excellent, Tabo. Thank you. Leonard's been there. Yeah, I mean, how many of you have been there? And this is not only in business. This could be in a relationship. This could be in your marriage. You know, so in all aspects, this could be you bring on a new person. This is a new partnership. It's a new relationship with a customer. You find a very new customer from emergence, then to chaos, and you build through that. And if you understand that process, you understand how to build that process, that is what that safeguards you as you go through. So, as I said, we have the Sales and Leadership Mastery Program starting Thursday evening, Friday, Saturday. We have a couple of seats if anyone still wants to make it on that. It is Thursday evening, all day Friday, all day Saturday, and a program that I would encourage you to get on. It's the last one I'm going to do this year. So Mari will put up the details. If you're not on it and you'd like to come on it, you know, just type your name and sales program SLMP in the box. There are the details. Type your name, your cell number, and SLMP if you'd like to come on it, and she'll give you all the details. And if you have been on it and you want to come and do it again, you know that we have a redo rate to make it extra affordable for you. So we'd love to see you on that again. Hopefully you got some value out of it tonight and learned something. Great question from Marlon and Maria. Thank you for that. And yeah, glad that came up, because I think that is in the ESBI quadrant is often a big confusion with people is, you know, do I have to go into this B quadrant? So excellent. Thank you, Michelle. Well, I'm not sure now. I can only see Eugene's face, so I'm going to hazard it's Michelle. So thank you for that comment. So
that's one next lesson.
Michelle, you've got a very deep voice now. Thank you. Cool, guys. So Marlon, if there's no other questions, back to you. And yeah, I will next week we'll have a guest for you, and so I'll have a special guest on for you guys next week, as I will be flying to the US on Monday. I'll be in the US on Tuesday. So those of you that are coming to sales program, really look forward to seeing you there. Those of you that are not, be blessed. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll chat to you guys soon. So Marlon, over to you, bud.
Thanks, Barry. I think that's excellent learning for me, especially. It actually gave me a bit of a story where a friend of mine, he's selling these very new skateboard things, you know, with technology and all. They can almost move by themselves, and they're very intuitive and all that stuff. And one of the things he was plugging in to his whole business plan is like a hire purchase type of thing. And it just made me realize that obviously the people who would buy it and then use it as a consumer thing, they would buy it and obviously pay the interest or whatever, make their payments. But the person who's smarter, who thinks differently, like an investor, like a business, or well, like an investor, would be buying them on hire purchase, selling them off, and then and having recurring sort of income coming through that. So in some form or way. So it was just making me think about how someone else would do that differently on the back of someone else's a business. So thank you for that. Yeah, guys, if you want to get this webinar or any of the others, you find them in the resource section of the website. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Looking forward to the mystery guest. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys, whoever's coming to the Sales and Leadership Mastery Program this weekend. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Bye, guys.
Oh, Barry's still on. Oh, everyone's gone.